Welcome into the Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network. I'm Chase Goodbread of NFL.com. I'm joined by Travis Reier, the longtime senior analyst at BamaOnline.com. Our Twitter feed, Talkin_Tide. You can get the Talkin Tide podcast at Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting app you prefer. Also live on YouTube, live on Facebook. About anywhere you want to get a podcast, you can find Talkin Tide. Our sponsors on Talkin Tide, North River Dental Associates, Peterborough Chocolatier of Tuscaloosa, and, of course, DraftKings. Got a lot to get into on this edition of Talkin Tide. A Sunday nighter, Travis. We begin by following up on Alabama's loss to the University of Kentucky, a home loss for the Crimson Tide. Final score 66-55. Crimson Tide goes down to the Cats. They now fall to 14-9 on the season, and now 2 games under 500 in SEC play. Travis 4-6 with that mark, and really, Travis, despite the fact that Alabama did hold a slim lead through parts of the first half, to me this was a game that kind of felt like Alabama was really never in it from the time Kentucky kind of took command right before halftime, and then from there pretty much all the way through the second half.
Yeah, and the surprise in that is you actually got some production from your post in the first half. Charles Bediako had 10 points, but I don't recall a night like this for Alabama guards, at least in the last season and a half under Nate Oates. This was dreadful, to say the least. And you figured with Oscar Tshiebwe in the post for Kentucky, Alabama's guards would have to come up at least somewhat big, maybe not to the extent that they did against Baylor a week ago when the 4 guards combined for 64 points, but you're definitely expecting a good bit more than what Alabama got out of Jaden Shackelford and Javon Quinterly and Keon Ellis and J.D. Davis. And Davison came on a little bit in the second half, but there's just not many games that Alabama's going to win against anybody in which they go 3 for 30 from the three-point line.
Yeah, 1 for 16 in the second half. Kept firing and kept the
That's who we are. That's who we are.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And when you're talking, and we've seen it twice in a row now with big men. Of course, there were 8 blocks from Auburn's big man in the previous game around the rim. At Kentucky, of course, they're always big and hard to score on at the cup. If you're shooting cold from 3-point range, and you're dealing with trees like that around the rim trying to drive the lane, you got to, at least to me, start at least trying some of the teardrop runners, right, from that 6 to 8 foot range, because, I'm all for, taking it up strong and getting calls and drawing fouls, getting to the line, putting big men in foul trouble. I get all that. But if you can't finish often enough against those types of guys, then you just got to get the shot off.
Yeah, you do. You got to get to the free throw line. Alabama did that okay in the game Saturday night. 24 free throw attempts, not a great percentage in making 16 of those. So, 67% isn't awful, but they've been better than that at times during SEC play. And really, points in the paint wasn't the killer for them like it was at Auburn when they were outscored 30 in the paint. They were -4 in this game. And you're right. In most years, Kentucky's length isn't just limited to, say, an Anthony Davis in the post. They're long at the guard positions traditionally. Although Ty Washington this year, Severe Wheeler, they're a little different type of backcourt for Kentucky than what we've seen traditionally in the past. So, Alabama still had some opportunities also inside the 3-point line. But as you said, just abysmal shooting all around. I mean, when you talk about Shackelford and Quinterly and Ellis and Davison, you're talking about 9 for 40 from the field from those 4 guys. And again, we just talked about the 3-point shooting. So it wasn't just that they weren't making shots from deep. They just weren't making shots from really anywhere. And I thought defensively they were good enough in this game, unlike Auburn and some previous games that we've seen from them. That wasn't the issue Saturday night.
No, they gave up a C note to Auburn. That was a disaster of a defensive performance. 66 Kentucky. That's a good enough defensive
at home.
Yeah,
you'd think you should be able to shoot it well enough to beat 66 points with the way they play.
For sure. 3 for 30 again from 3-point range, and just awful. And I don't think a lot of those threes were forced either. I think Alabama had good looks on
I
a lot
think
of
they've
those
had good
threes.
looks a lot of nights in SEC play, but they have not gone down, Chase. I mean, they're
No.
well under 30% from three now in conference play.
Shackelford and Quinterly both 2 for 11 from the field overall. They combined to go 0 for 10 from 3-point range. So a rough outing for those two shooting wise, especially. James Rojas 0 for 4 from 3-point range. Travis, last year I changed Herb Jones's light from green to red on 3-pointers.
You doing that with Jimmy Rojas now?
Yeah,
Is that what
I
you're?
think
He's not Jimmy Chitwood. He's Jimmy
for the
Rojas.
time being, yeah. I think his contributions need to stay in the
Red
paint.
Light Rojas. We'll start calling him on the podcast. How about that?
So, and I like Rojas. I think he brings
too.
a lot to the table. It brings
For
a lot
what
of
they
energy.
they need him. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Nate has a tendency to hand out those green lights a little liberally.
I wish I'd played for Nate in middle school. You know,
That's right.
I was about 4'3", and that's about all I could do. And I didn't even do that well. But according to Coach Oates, let's get him up. No, I mean, this is a quality Kentucky team. There's no doubt about it. It's a top 5 team. This isn't Auburn, though. We talked about that in relation to Alabama going from Baylor to Auburn, from that Saturday night game to the Tuesday night turnaround down on the Plains, and then going from Auburn to Kentucky. And even though we saw Auburn struggle mightily at Georgia on Saturday, really should have lost that game in all likelihood. Kentucky's very good. I don't think Kentucky's reached its ceiling as a team at this point, still ascending. But it's certainly a better Kentucky team than Alabama swept a year ago in those 2 meetings. And as we continue to learn, no Herb Jones, no John Petty, no Josh Primo, not just offensively what this team has lost and hasn't been able to sort of backfill for defensively and on the ball. Although, again, not bad on Wheeler. Wheeler didn't score in the game for Georgia. That sounds good. Then he had 7 assists, so he was impactful.
Right.
Ty Washington had 15. But as much as anything, balance for Kentucky on a night when Sheboy didn't go for 20 plus. They had 4 or 5 guys in double figures.
Yeah, no doubt. And Bediako ended up leading Alabama in scoring with 12 points. I guess that's never going to be. It's a good offensive outing for him. Not what you want to see in terms of the leading scorer.
The 8 rebounds you like too from Bediako in the game.
Yes.
That's a big number for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I still contend the next step for him is ball security, right? You do see it he gets it stripped away here and there. He'll get the jump ball tie up on him sometimes. That's what he's got to get out of his game for my money, and he'll elevate from there. Up next for the Alabama basketball team, Travis, they'll be traveling to Ole Miss. That'll be on Wednesday night, a 7:30 p.m. tip-off broadcast on SEC Network, and a chance to rebound after losing 2 in a row. You talked a couple weeks ago. You were looking ahead to this stretch of Baylor, Auburn, Kentucky as a real grind for Alabama. They emerged from that stretch 1-2 with a big win over Baylor. That's a quad 1 win for the Crimson Tide, but not strong at all in those 2 follow-ups.
Yeah, and the net rankings, all those things for Alabama are still favorable in terms of the NCAA tournament. But yeah, you got to win some conference games at some point. They've lost 4 straight on the road in the league. They need to rectify that situation ASAP coming up on Wednesday night in Oxford. At the same time, how many times have we said it throughout the season? Well, here comes a stretch that's manageable for Alabama. This is where they can make some hay.
Right.
We said that about the road trip to Missouri. We said it about the road trip to Georgia. We know what happened in those games. So, Ole Miss isn't upper half of the SEC team, but we've already seen Alabama lose these kind of games. So as much as anything at this point, you're wondering about the confidence level for Alabama going into that game Wednesday night.
Yeah, especially with the shooting, no question.
Yeah,
but,
you got to make shots on the road, man. Yeah,
they got to rebound for sure, and Ole Miss will be an opportunity to do that. 4-6 in the league once again. They'll be looking to go to 5-6 with a a victory in Oxford if they can pull it off. Elsewhere, Travis, in basketball news, a proposed new basketball arena. These are just plans that still need approvals and rubber stamps, etc., from the UA Board of Trustees. And we're talking about years, not months, before Alabama is in a new home arena. However, new arena proposal would hold 10,000 plus, 10,000 and change at a cost of $183 million. A couple other notes on it. Construction bids wouldn't even begin until April of 2023. So we're talking 14 months before construction companies are even throwing their hats in the ring. So it could be a while before they're bouncing basketballs in that place. But after what many Alabama fans would consider long overdue, it looks like a new arena is afoot.
Yeah, it's interesting how we went from the renovation expectation in the last 18 months or so to an entirely new building, which I'm totally in favor of. I think that's where you're at in terms of the total fan experience and also the ability to create a special environment. I think that's what's got to happen. There's only so much you can do with Coleman Coliseum to make it as friendly as it can possibly be. So I love the idea. I'm with you. It's kind of a shame that we're probably still this far away, but just looking at some of the initial renderings, I guess, Chase, I like the field house sort of feel to it, the design. Not exactly like Hinkle Fieldhouse at Butler, but you look at it, some of that's going to be in play. And I think logistically it's going to be fascinating. I know Greg Byrne talked about this late in the week. Where are you going to put it, on the campus? Where's it going to go? And so that's something I'm anticipating as much as anything else. It's going to be a very nice building. I like the capacity that's set for it, right around 10,000. I think that's plenty in this day and age. So everything about it is a positive, except, how long are we exactly away from seeing basketball and gymnastics in that building?
4 potential locations, apparently, Travis, for this new arena. One would be in the Coleman Coliseum, the vast Coleman Coliseum parking lot. So really one possibility, they just go right next door. Surprise, surprise, it would probably amount to a little more space for football and a little less for the law school. But that's
don't nobody buy a ticket to watch law school classes.
That's for sure. That's one possible location. Another is the band practice field, which of course kind of sits between University Boulevard and Bryant
You've already
Drive.
got a parking garage right there too. I guess you could tie into that.
You could. Another location on Jack Warner Parkway, another yet on McFarland Boulevard, all possibilities. The preferred location, if I'm not mistaken, is if our listeners and viewers are familiar with the Alabama softball field, there's a pretty large parking lot on the other side of the road from the softball field. And just beyond that, I think that's where they're looking for a potential location as well.
Yeah, I've heard that mentioned. And, that's sensible if you can tie it all into McFarland. And also you've got that sort of back way out Jack Warner once you, get over there and you can get into Holt and that area and cut back up, to get back to 2059. I think about things. I always think about how the hell can I get out of this place?
Right.
When it's over, as a fan or just someone that's going to be at games. So, that's a big part of it as well. How you're going to route traffic and do all those things and make it as easy in, easy out as you possibly can. So yeah, that's going to be a very interesting part of this entire process. And, who knows how much infrastructure in Tuscaloosa is going to change in the next 5 years alone, Chase, just based on the growth of the area, let alone a new arena going in. Yeah. I mean, how many years in a row now have we seen barricades in Tuscaloosa? Not just a few either, Goodbread. I mean, you've been there since 2007.
They're all over McFarland Boulevard right now, up and down.
McFarland's never going to get done.
No.
So hopefully what you're doing to McFarland right now has something like a new arena in mind, or, and look, I guess the other side of this too is you're going down on capacity.
Right.
So if you're going from 15 to 10, that helps you right there, I would think.
Yeah, the nonstop perpetual construction in Tuscaloosa, it's hard to wrap the mind around. It's Chattanooga Junior to me. It's about what it
Get
is.
Goodbread going on it. Get Goodbread going on.
Don't
Get
get me
Goodbread
started.
going on Tuscaloosa
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm not real thrilled with the way the university's enrollment expansion over the last couple decades and its change of the campus from a campus you can drive on to one you can
No.
practically only walk on. That's
Yeah.
not been great for the residents, Travis, but that's a whole nother podcast
Oh, yes.
or two or
Yes.
three or a spinoff.
And we can do that. We can do that sometime.
That's been known to be a soapbox of mine.
Yes, just a little bit. I enjoy it, but yeah.
The Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network. Want to thank you for joining us at whatever your favorite podcasting app is. Going to thank a couple sponsors of the program right now. We're going to start out, as always, by telling you a little bit about North River Dental Associates and Dr. Jack Smalley, that great staff of dental hygienists that he's got over in the aforementioned Northport area. There you see the map if you're watching on YouTube. 1100 Fairfax Park, right off of Watermelon Road. They do a great job. Whatever your dental needs, porcelain veneers, pediatric dentistry, laser dentistry, endodontics, dentures, they do it all. Always popular teeth whitening services as well. And on a routine cleaning, which you need to get done twice a year, they're going to get you in and out of there from door to door, typically in under an hour. The phone number 752-3506, or you can visit them online and make an appointment that way at northriverdentist.com.
I'm going to tell you about Peterborough Chocolatier because, folks, we are almost exactly 1 week away. We might as well be 1 week away from Valentine's Day 2022 because Valentine's Day 1 week from tomorrow as we record this on a Sunday night. So, next weekend from Friday really to Monday, you're going to have your opportunities. And you need to make it happen at Peterborough Chocolatier. They got those fresh hand-dipped strawberries ready to go for you. Pre-order them by calling 205-752-0211. They can overnight those strawberries, but probably more along the lines of some of the other stuff they do there at Peterborough Chocolatier. You might be better with the shipping option, but they can take great care of you there. Peterborough Chocolatier, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 205-752-0211.
Finally, going to tell you a little bit about our corporate sponsor. That would be DraftKings. The moment you've been waiting for, the Super Bowl, is upon us. And in honor of the big game, the DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the National Football League, giving new customers 56-1 odds in honor of Super Bowl 56 on either team. You just bet $5 on whoever you think will win, Rams or Bengals. If you get it right, you'll get $280 if you win in free bets. That's 56-1 odds at the DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers can also get a free shot at a $1 million top prize with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code TPPN. That's the Pigskin Podcast Network to get that 56-1 odds deal. They'll get you taken care of. Bet $5, win $280 in free bets with that promo code TPPN. The official sports betting partner of the National Football League and Super Bowl 56 is the DraftKings Sports Book. And with that, Travis, we'll turn to a little bit of football news here. Of course, the late signing day just passed on Wednesday. Travis used to be the only one, the big one. Now it's the one that is kind of the afterthought in the recruiting process. Nick Saban picks up a tight end, but not surprisingly making as much or bigger news than adding a single tight end to a signing class that was all but sewn up already. Saban officially welcomes 3 portal transfers: Jahmyr Gibbs, Jermaine Burton, Eli Ricks, 3 guys that should have an excellent chance to play early and often for the Crimson Tide. And from there, the transfer portal / NIL debate among SEC coaches got a little hot with Jimbo.
Oh, I love
Travis.
when Jimbo gets hot. It just, I just love to hear Jimbo. I could listen to Jimbo Fisher read the telephone book. You know, that'd be fun. Like a washer and dryer manual. I
with
get to
those
say, Jimbo, read this. I just want to
with
hear you
those
read it.
professorial glasses on.
Oh, on
Yeah,
the tip of that nose, wagging that. Was he wagging the finger a little bit?
he didn't have to,
He
right?
was
It was
wagging the finger a little bit. No, it was tremendous soundbite, and I guess Nick Saban's comments earlier in the week in relation to some of the NIL stuff on the recruiting trail, which is where a lot of this is ultimately going to sort of mushroom cloud, because there's tales out there that players that say Texas or prospects for Texas A&M are in some form or fashion, whether it's by the coaching staff or others, and maybe this is all myth. They're basically being told it's $250K essentially if you sign with us. 50, 60 grand a year, something like that. We'll see. To me, it wouldn't make any sense for a head coach, though, to push that approach or that type of deal, because you're adding that to your to-do list already, which is immense. You're trying to manage 85 scholarship guys, 115 total, whatever the number is these days. And if a player now has a problem with his deal and you have sold it to them on the recruiting trail, whose problem is it now?
Yeah.
If it comes up, now you're in that business too.
You want to talk about a hot transfer portal? Just tell a guy he's going to make $250K playing football for 3 or 4 years, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He needs a red shirt, and then he's a backup that sophomore year. You want to talk about hitting the portal?
Well, now look, and I think places like A&M, Alabama too, if that was an approach Alabama wanted to take, they'd be able to follow through on the deals. But any type of issues that could impact those, that's very problematic. I know Jimbo's sort of response was, a lot of these kids were Texas kids. That's where it started, and from there they pretty much sold it. But yeah, I mean, you got kids from Miami, you got kids from Knoxville, Tennessee, and we've seen Alabama recruit like that in the past. So it's not to say that it's not something you can accomplish, but it just seemed a little bit random that this year of all years, it just came together for A&M. Like all these kids suddenly wanted to play together at Texas A&M.
Right. And Nick Saban obviously said what he wanted to say. Lane Kiffin named A&M. Nick Saban didn't name anybody. Lane Kiffin just said, "Oh,
crazy talk." He called it crazy talk. I think
what's going on with A&M over there. Kiffin said he's got a way. When the SEC coaches get together for those meetings at the HQ, I wish I could like to be a fly on the wall to see that Lane Kiffin Jimbo handshake. So. Yeah, certainly fun times on the SEC recruiting trails these days.
I mean, it's only early February, man. I mean, don't we got to pace ourselves?
I said from this jump, and I'm not tooting my horn or anything, because 3 years from now it might not even be. It might look completely different. Who knows? It's a newly blazed trail. But I did say before NIL, when NIL started coming down the pike, I said the best way to keep the recruiting factor out of that money is to just wait until the players have been on the field for a year before you throw the door open, because then they've got a name, image, and likeness value, right? When you throw that door open as soon as they sign, or even before they sign, that's really not name, image, and likeness value. That's, I want you to come to my school value.
Yeah.
So, now of course,
there's going to be measures you got to think that are going to, but what semblance of the NCAA is going to be left?
Yeah.
At some point too, to from an enforcement perspective, what is really the presence of the NCAA right now when you got people like Will Wade and others still coaching basketball,
right?
And we're talking about investigations that are how many years in the making now? It's toothless, the NCAA, from an enforcement perspective, it seems like these days.
Completely. It's a different organization in a lot of different ways. And, even what I just suggested about waiting until players have been on the field for a year, that probably would not survive a legal challenge, not based on what we've seen so far.
I think it's the biggest nightmare that's ever come down the pike for coaches. I mean, in terms of having to try to motivate guys and what their true intentions are now. And, I talking with someone that's familiar with Doug Marrone, it was already a headache for him at Alabama. Not that he had specific instances that were problematic during his year on the job, but you combine NIL with the one-time transfer rule, you got a different player you're trying to coach now.
Right.
Just even with the one-time transfer rule alone, Doug Marrone's trying to coach up guys the way he thought or the way he remembered coaching up guys in college the last time he was in college. Nah.
It's
It
a
doesn't work
different
that
ball
way
game.
anymore.
No.
These guys know they have that. They know they have that escape route, and they can go anywhere free. Of any type of restriction, and so it's an entirely different deal just from that perspective. You put NIL in it now, oof. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to, because the money is still going to be good enough at the college level and the multi-year deals are going to be there for college coaches. I don't know we're going to exactly see the exodus. Just let me go to the NFL then and coach if I can. But there is a drumbeat growing louder and louder at a lot of places that, it's a problem trying to coach some guys the way you feel like they need to be coached with the one-time exception. And then there's head coaches that'll go to the position coach and go, what the hell's the problem? I got this guy coming to me telling me he's going in the transfer portal. Well, coach, I'm coaching him.
Right.
You know? So,
there was a time, Travis, when coaching in the NFL versus coaching college ball was kind of a flavor issue, right? For a coach. Now it's not about now the NFL is flat out more appealing because it's just about football there.
I can tell you, Doug Marrone, when he went to Alabama, the sentiment was after what he went through in Jacksonville with Jalen Ramsey and a lot of those cats.
Yeah.
He was thinking, man, this is going to be refreshing. I'm going to go down to college and I'm going to be able to really get, grassroots and get back to real coaching and motivating young people. After a season on the job, I don't think Doug's narrative was what it was back in August. Put it that way.
If that's
or
what he wants,
March.
If that's what he wants, he needs
like,
to
hell,
go
I'm going
back
to the NFL.
School.
Or go to the money ain't so good, at Mandarin High in Jacksonville. But no, I mean, his take now is I've got enough money. I can sit out too if I need to for a year.
Right.
Or go back to the NFL.
Yeah. The old school coaches that just say, the hell with it, right? I just want to throw all this other garbage away and just teach the purity of the game to young kids that appreciate it. That's a high school job now. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So
now and look, Doug's got enough money socked away. If he wants to go that grassroots, he can do it. But he's still young enough that why wouldn't he want to coach at the highest levels,
ESPN also reporting, Travis, that ex-Georgia quarterback Joe Cox will be Alabama's next tight ends coach. Comes from Charlotte. The Saban connection is that he coached South Carolina for Will Muschamp for a stretch as a wide receivers coach. So a little bit of coaching news there. And in an unfortunate circumstance as well, Pete Golding, Alabama coordinator, arrested for DUI this week. We'll see what comes of that. Maybe nothing publicly, but that's a difficult thing to wrap any commentary around. For one thing, because not all DUIs are made the same, right? There are DUIs that are dangerous to differing degrees. You can you can get a DUI for being found asleep in a parked car with a BAC level that's slightly over the limit.
Right.
And you can get one for driving 85, triple the legal limit.
Yeah. I mean, in most instances, virtually all of them, it's inexcusable. First and foremost, you're glad no one was hurt in any of these instances when something like this happens. And then you got to take into account sort of the employer ramifications. Are they in a UA provided vehicle when the situation goes down? If that happens, it becomes
different
maybe more of an HR situation. And then there is counseling services and there's procedure for these situations, especially with a state employee, that I would think if all of this is what's in play, there's a lot that has to go down. First and foremost, you just hope Pete's in an okay place. And you're thankful, again, no one was hurt. And look, he took ownership for it, released a statement. I know. And, you just hope he's able to move forward in a really positive fashion from here.
It's going to do it for this edition of the Talkin Tide podcast. Be sure to join us again next weekend. Travis and I will reconvene for another Sunday nighter at that time. For Travis Reier of BamaOnline.com, I'm Chase Goodbread of NFL.com and Crimson Cover Television. Be sure to join us next week right here on Talkin Tide.